All right. Let's just go ahead and get started here. Well, we'll wait another few minutes for people to sign in. I'm going to send the group a message. All right, I just sent the group a message just to say that you should be hearing me talking. If you cannot hear me talking, you might want to check your sound settings, check that your speakers are on. All right, it is just now 10 o'clock. We'll give everyone another couple of minutes to sign in before we start the broadcast. Up on the screen, you should see the cover page for today's webinar, the RIA Compliance Webinar for February 5, 2016. If you don't see that, again, you might want to check your connections. All right. All right, it is just a little after 10 o'clock here in the Pacific Northwest. Just want to welcome everyone to the RIA Compliance Webinar. I know some of you are coming in from the East Coast, and some of you out a little further west in Alaska and Hawaii. So we'll welcome everybody. Good morning and good afternoon to the RIA Compliance Webinar presented by Mezzo Compliance. I'm glad you're here. On the right-hand side of your viewer screen, you should see a message application. You can send me a message. If you have a question, go ahead and put your question in there. I will do what I can to get those. If you don't want to send me a question and you don't want to participate, you don't have to. If that is your situation, just sit back, relax, and take notes if you want. Now, please don't feel like you have to take furious notes. I will be distributing after the webinar a list of resources to all the attendees. So please don't feel like you have to write down every name that you hear. Let's just get started here. Hi, my name is Dane Grau, and I am the president of Mezzo Compliance, and I will be presenting today's webinar. Today, we're going to cover 3 topics. We're going to cover keeping up with the changes, that is regulatory changes. We're going to talk about compliance program management. And then lastly, we'll talk about cybersecurity for registered investment advisors. After each section, I can take a couple of questions, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And so to that end, anything more than a couple of questions, then we'll probably just have to email those out. I don't want to get into some one-on-one consulting by way of this webinar. At the end of the webinar, near the end, we will open up to full Q&A, and we'll do that just before that resources and special bonus section that you see there on the agenda. As a bonus for attending today's webinar, one attendee will receive an hour of consulting free from Mezzo Consulting, Mezzo Compliance. I will contact the winner by email tonight sometime. I will probably have one of my family members do a random drawing. I also would like to mention that anybody with a CSCP designation from the National Society of Compliance Professionals can receive 1 hour of CE credit just for watching today's webinar. So if that is your situation, please email me that I can confirm your name and your attendance with the National Society of Compliance Professionals. All right, with that, why don't we just jump right in? Keeping up with the changes. We're going to talk about how you can keep up with regulatory changes. Now, the regulators do not often make massive changes, although in this business, in my experience, you can expect one fairly significant rule change each year. More often, it is tweaks to the application of a rule, or a regulator will release some sort of interpretive guidance. And today we will talk about how we consultants keep up with those changes, the big and the small changes. I'm going to give away some trade secrets here. Although change is typically slow, it is important. You absolutely must keep current on the rules of your trade. So what we consultants do is we have a process for checking in with the regulators. I wish there was some trick, but really it is nothing more than that, just a periodic check-in. My own process, I will tell you, is straightforward, it's simple, and it is ultimately repeatable. The first thing I do is I calendar a task. Now I keep up with the regulators and the changes going on with them on a ad hoc sort of frequent basis. It's just kind of the nature of my job. But what I do every quarter, I take one morning and I visit all the necessary regulators. It's time that I set aside just to do this. I check in with the SEC, I check in with FINRA, and then I also check in with any of the state regulators in which my clients are registered. For you, it would probably be a lot less than that. What you'll want to do is check in with your primary regulator and then any other jurisdictions in which you might be registered. So for an SEC advisor, that is the SEC, obviously, and then any states in which you are notice filed. For a state registered investment advisor, you will want to check in with your home state, and then again, any states in which you are registered. If you have the time and the will, it would be a good idea to check in with any jurisdictions in which you intend to register within the next year. So these are the states in which you are bumping into that de minimis exemption. And again, I check every quarter. I set aside one morning every quarter and just sweep through all my regulators. The best place to check is a regulator's website, particularly in this day and age. It's not always obvious where the rule changes are on a regulator's website. The state websites tend to vary in quality and usability, and it can be really hard to find that little piece of information that you're looking for. So for me, the best place to look is the press releases. The regulators are no different from a business. Whenever they do something, they just have to tell the world. And typically they issue a press release. So find the press releases and look for anything that affects your business. Now, typically the division that regulates your business will be part of a much larger government agency. So you may have to slog through a number of press releases to find that one that impacts your business. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, really. One way to keep on press releases without even trying is to subscribe to an RSS feed. An RSS feed is a way for a website owner, in this case the state, the SEC or FINRA, to publish new content. They send out a sort of electronic press release that includes either the full piece that they've recently published or a synopsis of that piece. What you can do is you can download an RSS reader and have these feeds sent right to your RSS reader. Now, not all website owners publish an RSS feed. The SEC does, FINRA does, most of the states do. What you'll want to do, if you look at the symbol on the slide here, the orange square with the dot and the two semicircular lines, that indicates that you have found the section of the website, the regulator's website, that has the RSS feed. You can also do a search. I have good luck putting in the state's name in your favorite search engine, and after that put RSS feed. And then some states run a number of different RSS feeds based on agencies, and some just have one great big one. It just depends on the state and the nature of their technology. Now, there's a number of paid and free RSS readers. I happen to use one called Comma Feed. That's C-O-M-M-A feed, Comma Feed, all one word. I can't say I endorse it. We're not affiliated in any way. It just happens to be a simple free tool that I like to use. Now, the resource list I'm sending out will have a link to an article that discusses all these RSS readers. So please don't feel like you need to jump out right now and download Comma Feed. Another great resource are consultants and attorneys. You probably wouldn't want to pay either one just to read the news to you. But what I, meaning Mezzo Compliance, and many other compliance professionals do is we publish an enormous amount of free content. If there's a universal truth among we consultants and attorneys, it's that we are very, very happy to share our opinion. Although they're direct competitors, I must say that there's a few consultants and a few attorneys that I really enjoy reading myself. I would say find a few you like and bookmark their website. By reading their blogs and their white papers periodically, you can stay current, but not just know the rules, but understand the application of the rules and maybe get some in-depth analysis. Everyone has their own style. Some are kind of wonky and academic. Some are more on the how-to side. I will tell you that my blogs and my information I put out tends to be a little more on the how-to side. The last resource I want to talk about is compliance associations. These are a fantastic resource. The National Society of Compliance Professionals has been a real help to me. I'm a member. Again, they're not paying me to say that. It's just an organization that I believe in. On their website, if you join as a member, there's a form where you can get answers and support to just about any compliance issue you may have. They have resources, they have tools for download. And again, for me personally and professionally, the NSCP has been a tremendous resource. Now, there's also a number of regional compliance associations as well. I know here in the Portland, Oregon area, we have the Greater Portland Compliance Association. In Southern California, San Diego and Orange counties, there's the Southern California Compliance Group. I know there is a group in the Tampa, Florida area. And I would imagine that there's probably one in your area or in your state. Usually the membership cost is very reasonable, and for that you get usually some sort of forum. They meet periodically, and you get a nice cup of coffee. So I enjoy belonging to compliance associations, and I encourage you to join. Now, I'd like us maybe to help each other here if possible. If you belong to a compliance association, a local or regional compliance association that I didn't mention here today, please email me and let me know. I would love to put their name and their website on a list of resources that I distribute by way of my website. And I'd like to tell other compliance professionals in your area about them. So again, if you belong to a compliance association, please let me know. All right, are there any questions about keeping up with regulatory changes and tips and tricks, or does anyone have anything to share with the group? All right, it doesn't look like any questions have come through, so why don't we just, let's just move on here. All right, now we're going to talk about compliance program management. Now, we tend to think of compliance as an event, as a destination, and it's not. Really, it is just a way of doing things. It's a method, it's an ethos that runs through your firm. Oftentimes, new clients come to me and they're worried about their compliance, and the question I get time and time again is, am I okay? And I would tell you what I tell most of my new clients, and that is just please relax. You are probably already doing compliance. Compliance is really nothing more. It's 90% common sense, keeping good records, and being a conscientious fiduciary. And I hope this is just how you run your business, just habitually. The last 10% of compliance is nothing more than details, purely technical requirements. And it's nothing more really than that last 10% is nothing more than you making sure that first 90% is actually happening. So if we assume that first 90% is actually happening, that you are using good common sense, that you're keeping good records, and that you're a mindful and conscientious fiduciary, let's just focus on that last 10%, those purely technical requirements. In order to manage your program, you're going to need a process, something that you can do consistently. Huge tasks and projects are going to make you feel overwhelmed. Your program really needs to be a series of small, easily managed, and predefined tasks. Your process, whatever it may be, should be designed to detect and correct gaps in your compliance. It's okay to find errors and the things that you may not be doing so well. The regulators are not expecting perfection. But if you do find an error, it is crucial that you correct that error. And lastly, your process needs to be well documented. Don't be afraid to document gaps. Don't be afraid to document mistakes. Don't be afraid to document errors. Again, regulators are not expecting to see perfection. What they would rather see is an engaged compliance officer making a real attempt at improving their practice. The best advice I can give about compliance management is probably the most obvious, and that's use a system. And by that I mean a consistent means of guiding and documenting your compliance efforts. You should have a calendar of tasks and a method for documenting everything. Now, there are a number of software providers that can do this for you, and there's Compliance Max, there's My Compliance Office. I know there's a couple others, and these can be a great resource. Usually for a monthly or annual fee, they will help guide your compliance efforts. You can also use Word and an Excel to create calendars and document your issues. Most people have these programs installed on their computers already, and they can help you create a compliance system. A number of consultants publish yearly compliance to-do lists. You typically find those in December and January, at the end of last year, the beginning of this year. So I would say look for a few consultants and see if they have published a compliance to-do list. Now, we at Mezzo offer a totally free compliance system. It's based exclusively on Word documents. You can go to our website and you can download that for free. So please feel free to go to our website and grab those documents and use them to guide your compliance efforts. Try to make a little time each day for managing the technical details of your compliance program. And really all you need is a focused 15 to 30 minutes each day. You may need to block more time if you're working on something big like an annual exam or some of the more in-depth tasks, but really on any given day, a solid 15 to 30 minutes should be plenty of time to take care of your compliance tasks. Use a calendar to make sure that you are maximizing your time. Don't waste time every day thinking about what to do next. A calendar or a task list laid out each day will save you an enormous amount of time in your compliance. On a daily basis, you're probably doing mostly check the box type reviews, those rote, mundane, administrative type compliance tasks. You'll be filling out paperwork, double checking to make sure forms are turned in, and that sort of work. Now, forensic reviews are you digging a little deeper into your business and looking at trends. For example, you might want to pull the client files of a particular advisor. You might want to pull out your mutual fund due diligence files and update those. You might want to look at the trade errors for the last year and see if there was any significant trade errors. And you want to arrange these forensic reviews as quarter or annual tasks. And again, use a calendar so you're not wasting time. When you're doing forensic reviews, as I just said, you're looking for trends and you're looking for outliers. And you need to decide if those trends and outliers are a one-off event or if it might indicate a broken process. And then the last component of a good compliance program is exams and tests. The Federal Advisors Act and many of the states require you to test your practice every year. The regulators have provided virtually no detail about what a test should entail. They pretty much just say, do one. What it has come to mean, though, is a regulatory mock exam. That is touching on all the key areas that one might expect a regulator to touch on in the event of a real regulatory exam. I would say, again, use a program or a template created by someone else so you're not wasting precious time reinventing the wheel. There are a number of great programs out there to help you guide your exams. So I would say use one of those. As you examine your practice, it's important that you document everything, both good and bad. Too many times I'll take on a client and I look through their past exams and they all appear to be flawless. But then when I do an exam with sort of impartial eyes, they don't do near as well. So I would tell you, the lesson learned here is to please be ruthlessly honest with yourself when you look at your business. Finding gaps is really not a bad thing. It's worse to pretend that they are not there. If you do find an issue, make sure you document your corrective action. Keep an organized document, a list of your corrective actions that you can review later, and also that a RIA regulatory examiner could review later. And this is to prevent recidivism in your own practice. All right, that's it for our compliance management section. Are there any questions about compliance management? Anything you missed that you want me to repeat? All right, quiet group. It looks like once again there are no questions from the field, and that's okay. Let's just drive on. All right, now we're going to talk about cybersecurity for investment advisors. I don't really think any topic right now is dominating the conversation in this business quite like cybersecurity. I think the use of robo-advisors is maybe coming in a close second, but I think really everyone's focus, everyone's eyes are on cybersecurity. It seems like every day there's a new breach in the news, and I think that's got everyone spooked. Even our own government is not immune. The federal government has been hacked. So this is an issue that has become very, very important to this industry. We in this business, we in this industry are the custodians of deeply personal, non-public financial information. And I think given that, you need to understand that you are probably a target and you need to use every means available to protect your client's non-public information. Cybersecurity has increased in importance for a number of reasons, some of which I just spoke about broadly, but there are three issues to me that stick out as I research this topic. First, there is an increased use in software. Virtually every daily function of an advisor business involves software. It used to be just the rote, mundane administrative issues like accounting and portfolio accounting and that sort of thing. And really software has come to dominate the business, and virtually everyone's practice runs on some sort of software platform, if you will. Now, the unfortunate thing about software is all software can be used as a portal for the bad guys. Second, many applications are now in the cloud, and what I mean by in the cloud is they're accessed by way of a web browser. As with software, this has some positives and some negatives. First, on the positive side, data storage and security are the responsibility of somebody else. I don't mean that you've sloughed that off on somebody. I just mean that it's in the hands of a real technology professional. But it also means that your client's information is susceptible to being intercepted. It's vulnerable while it's being transferred to and from those applications, those online web-based applications. So again, there's some good and bad to having applications in the cloud. And then lastly, I think that the third important reason is that the SEC just a few weeks ago said that cybersecurity was going to be an exam focus in 2016. So if the other two didn't grab your attention, surely that will. What I don't want to do today is get into a bunch of scary stories and statistics. I assume that since you are here watching this webinar, you already understand the importance of the issue and that you understand that it's something that we need to all get better at. So what I'm going to do today, again, is not scare you with stories and statistics. What I really, really want to do is just give you simple solutions to help you mitigate the threats you're going to face. There are a number of different threats you are likely to face, but really 4 are the most common to small businesses and individuals, and these are the 4 I'm going to talk about today. A broad sweeping discussion of cybersecurity is way beyond the scope of this webinar. So again, we're just going to focus on these 4 because these are the 4 at this very instant and probably will wake up and face tomorrow. First is malware. You probably know of these as viruses. Second, password attack. This is when someone tries to guess a password in order to access an application. or a website. Man in the middle, this is when a hacker is trying to get between two connected devices. And phishing is those fake emails that you probably get in your spam email inbox. But again, more than just talking about these threats, I want to talk to you about how you can prevent them. Okay, so we're going to offer you real solutions that are going to help you mitigate these threats. And it's important to know that each of these threats is preventable. Using simple tools and common sense, really you can stop all but the world's most sophisticated hackers. And also the best part of these solutions, I think, or one of the best parts, is that they have little or no cost. They don't require any specialized knowledge to implement. And if you do any one of these things we talk about today, your business will be instantly better and your clients will be safer. Malware. This is third-party code that comes into your computer or network and is intended to steal information or disrupt services. So again, it's third-party code that comes into your computer network with the intent of stealing information or disrupting services. We know these commonly as viruses. And they come into most people's computers and systems in a couple of ways. Often they're attached to emails. And also when people download software, there's often a virus embedded in the code. Either way, what the creator of the virus is trying to do is they're trying to disguise the virus, usually by attaching it to a credible looking source file. Now, preventing viruses is not really all that difficult. The first thing you have to do is you have to train your staff. Those of us that are avid technology users often take for granted the sophistication of others. Not everyone in this world is a power user. So please be mindful that your staff needs training, and it might need to be early, basic, beginner level training. Second, you need to buy a decent firewall and antivirus program. There's a number of reputable free utilities. You can go to download.com. There's a number on there that I've used before. The free, they usually give you a free version. But my personal opinion, this is an area where you do not want to go cheap. Go ahead and spend a few bucks. And then third, policies and procedures. Just make sure that your staff actually reads them. And two policies that would stop most viruses and hackers right in their tracks are two. One, do not allow staff to open up email attachments from unknown sources, just a little education. And then also, staff should be prohibited from using anything except approved software. Password attack. A password attack is when someone uses software or deception to obtain a password. In researching the subject, I learned that hackers actually have software that will guess passwords. They know the most popular passwords, and the program just runs through these. They can also input personal information, name, address, phone number, whatever it is they know about you. And most people's passwords are some sort of truncation, I guess, if you will, of personal information. Another trick hackers like to use is they use password reset to obtain a password. If they learn enough information about you or your business, oftentimes they can guess the answers to your security questions. And this is how celebrities get hacked. This is what happened to some of the well-known celebrities that you've seen in the news that have had their email hacked. Someone just learned enough information and was able to guess their security questions. So password attacks are easily preventable. First and foremost, you must require your staff to use strong passwords. A strong password does not really have a specific technological definition, but it's generally understood to be a random string of at least 8 characters. You can also use nonsensical word combinations, and then also do not allow your staff to recycle passwords. I know a number of people who have their 2 or 3 passwords, and they are their passwords to just about everything, and that's really not a good idea. Second, do not use obvious usernames. How many applications do you use, application software do you use, where your username is either your email or your first initial and last name? This is so obvious to hackers when this happens. This is like giving the bad guys the ball on the 50-yard line. They're already halfway there. They can guess your username. If you have the ability to pick your username, I suggest that you use a fake or nonsensical username, one that would be as difficult to guess as your password. And then third, never use your web browser to remember your passwords. If you have this feature turned on in Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer, turn it off immediately. Second, do not use Excel or Word to hold your passwords. There's a much better way to remember passwords, and that's using a password manager. A password manager is a software program that you download to your computer, and it just holds your passwords. It remembers them for you. It remembers usernames. It remembers your passwords. Now, a good password manager will also create strong passwords for you. That random string of 8 or up to 12 or 16 random characters. Your information, your passwords, is stored in a secure encrypted format. I personally use a password manager that costs me less than $20 a year, and it is far and away the cheapest insurance I've ever purchased. Now, I'm going to publish this webinar in a public forum, and so I'd like to take a moment to publicly call on software developers, cloud service providers, and technology consultants to please stop making users use their email or their first initial and last name as their user ID. This is an incredibly unsecure practice. It's bad for American business, and it's bad for American consumers. So again, I'm asking technology professionals to please stop this practice. All right, let's talk about man-in-the-middle. A man-in-the-middle attack is when someone places themselves between two communicating devices. For example, this can be between you and your servers at your custodian. It can also mean when someone intercepts a Wi-Fi signal. Intercepting a Wi-Fi signal is very, very common in office settings, particularly in office parks and high-rises where the walls can be thin. You've got a number of businesses close together. It's also very common in residential areas where you find neighbors using each other's Wi-Fi. And then, of course, in hotels, everyone's favorite Starbucks, and other public areas. When I was researching this topic, I was shocked to learn how incredibly common this practice is, but also how incredibly unsecure this practice is. Let's talk about man-in-the-middle preventive measures. The first line of defense, in particular for your Wi-Fi, is to use WPA or higher encryption for your Wi-Fi connection. If you're using no encryption at all, or if you're using WEP called WEP, you really need to reevaluate your setup. And if you don't know how, you need to get a professional in to help you set up at least WPA or higher Wi-Fi encryption. Second, do not give your Wi-Fi network an obvious username. Most routers give you the ability to name your network whatever you want. So if you are XYZ Financial, do not call your Wi-Fi network XYZ Wi-Fi. Select a fake or nonsensical Wi-Fi username. And then lastly, as stated previously, you'll want to use a very strong password. A string of 8 random characters is best, or 12 or 16 is even better. You can also use nonsensical word combinations. That can be an effective password. Just don't use password or admin123 or something. Phishing. Phishing is when a hacker sends an email that looks legitimate, but is really about obtaining information or planting a virus. Just by way of example, I think the obvious one is we've all seen those emails from the prince that needs to get his money out of his country and wants your help, and all he needs is your ATM debit number. The other one I see quite a bit in doing email reviews is the person stranded at a hotel in a foreign country. Now, most hackers are, or the good hackers, I should say, or maybe the bad hackers, are far more sophisticated than that. They will create an email that looks very real, using images that they can just clip from a website. I personally got one that looked like it was from my bank. It looked real, so real, in fact, that I called them because it just didn't make any sense, but it looked incredible, I must say. Um, so let's talk about how we prevent phishing preventive measures. Um, First, the best defense is training and education. Teach your staff, especially those that are not power users, what to look for, and they're far less likely to fall for these kind of phishing scams. Um, if you are at all unsure about the email you've reviewed, call the institution that is, the email purportedly represents. This is what I did. I called my bank. The email didn't make a lot of sense to me, and then they told me that it was, in fact, a fake. Generally speaking, your financial institution is not going to send an email to obtain your account number or your PIN number. I'm not being facetious. I mean that sincerely. They do not verify any information by way of email. So if you get something like this, it is more than likely a fake, and just call the institution again that it purports to represent. And lastly, and this is easy and free, do not allow your staff to use their work email for personal business. Oftentimes what hackers will do is they will buy the customer list of a legitimate business under false pretenses, and then they will use this customer list to engage in phishing, or they'll hack a customer list and use that for phishing. So the fewer emails that your staff is getting, the easier it will be to spot the fakes. So I would encourage you to please implement that policy of not allowing staff to use their work email for personal business. There are a number of things that you can do that do not address a specific cybersecurity issue, but will enhance your overall cybersecurity program. So we're going to talk about those things. Again, these don't address a specific issue, but they will make your business better. I would say take an inventory of all the people that are authorized to access your network. This includes not just your staff, but external staff. This might include also consultants and contractors that have the ability to see your network or personal client information. You might also want to think about if you maintain a clients only section of your website. That is someone using a user ID and password to access your network. It's probably hosted somewhere else, but nonetheless, you'll want to keep a list of all the people that have access to anything that is under your control. You also want to keep a list of devices that are authorized to access your network. So this would be clearly computers and peripherals in your primary office location, but also staff working from home. What devices are they allowed to use to access your network? Can they use your cell phone to access your network? Are they on a tablet? Do they access your network from a fixed location like a home office, or do they frequently work from a coffee shop or the library? You want to keep track of all these things. You'll also, I would consider hosting a training course to teach your staff about cybersecurity and the importance of cybersecurity. There are a number of free and low-cost solutions. I will include a link to a free training course on the list of resources I distribute after the webinar. It's a company called Cyber Aces, and they've got a terrific free training course available. I would also encourage you to draft your own your specific cybersecurity policies and procedures, and make sure they're understood by your staff. A few paragraphs in your big policy procedure manual is probably not enough anymore. Once upon a time, when everyone used email, and maybe they talked to their custodian by way of the web, a few paragraphs is okay. But in this day and age, where your business is quite probably on a software platform of some kind, I think you really need to consider specific cybersecurity policies and procedures. And then lastly, I would put a remote wiping app on any device that is portable. So I'm thinking here about your laptops, your tablets, and your smartphones. A wiping app is a program that wipes out all the information on a device in the event that the device is lost or stolen. Uh, both Android and Apple products come with some sort of wiping app built in. You can also buy third-party applications that might do a more thorough job. They are not very expensive at all, and by that I mean they're generally less than $20 per device. So there's no good reason not to have a wiping application on mobile devices. And then also let's talk about some extra credit things. These are things that are not cheap, but they will take your business that extra mile and give you a really an airtight cybersecurity program. These three items, again, these are not cheap, but they do add an extra layer of protection I think that is important. First is cybersecurity insurance. Yes, there really is such a thing. I was surprised to learn that. It's a developing area of the insurance business, so I would say do your due diligence and choose your carrier carefully and be mindful of the exclusions. Technology changes quickly and requires a special skill set. So given that, I would say cybersecurity is an excellent area to engage a consultant. To find a consultant, I would contact one of the industry associations. Start with the Information Systems Security Association, the ISSA. You don't need to write that down. I'll include a link on how to find them and find yourself a good, hopefully local cybersecurity consultant that maybe can come out to your facility and look in on your setup and not just work remote. And then lastly, I would appoint or even hire, if you have the budget, a cybersecurity officer. Cybersecurity, as I've said repeatedly, is way too important to ignore, to look at on a part-time basis, to designate some sort of junior staff member responsible. It really is an area that requires full-time attention now. So I would say consider hiring or appointing somebody a cybersecurity office. Also create a cybersecurity committee to help support them. To chase down issues, to generate new and better ideas regarding your cybersecurity program, and to also create some sort of executive accountability. So a cybersecurity committee is one thing that I can really suggest, and that would have really no cost. So that's all for cybersecurity. Are there any questions about cybersecurity and things you can do to enhance your cybersecurity program? If not, we'll just jump right into our resources and our bonuses. Before we move on, were there any questions from the previous two topics? That is keeping up with regulatory changes and compliance program management. I don't see any messages in the chat feature. That's fine. If you think of something, please let me know. Tomorrow, I will email a list out of all the resources I talked about today. So again, please don't feel like that you missed anything, or if you missed some notes, just check the resource list that I'll email out tomorrow. Also, we will notify the winner of the free hour of consulting tomorrow sometime. So if that's you, you'll get an email tomorrow. If you don't get an email by close of business tomorrow, it means you didn't win, and I'm deeply sorry, but sign up for our next webinar, and maybe you win that one. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know. We're here to help. Also, if you have an idea for a future webinar topic, I'm open to all suggestions. I want to make these valuable to the audience, and to do that, I think the best way to do that is just to ask you what it is you want to learn about, what it is you want to know. So if you think of something, if you think of a topic that you're just dying to know about, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to cover that subject in our next webinar. If there's no more questions, we've been on this call now, or this webinar, for 45 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And this is Dane Grau from Mezzo Compliance. Let me know how I can help. Thank you.